With a mixture of triumph and humility, Mandela arrived at John F. Kennedy Airport.
We will always seek consensus to resolve our problem.
The car in which John F. Kennedy was assassinated, there were 6 passengers. A replica of the car JFK was sitting in when he was assassinated. And that car has 4 seats, not 6. And that's in an esteemed museum.
Hello, and welcome to or welcome back to Lauren's Legends. Today we will be going through a phenomenon that may make us question our minds, our sanity, and even question our reality. Let's break down the Mandela Effect, the science behind it, and let's hope that by the end of this video, we are all still in the same timeline so I can tell you what I believe. Let's get right into it. Through the years, I have commonly heard of what is called the Mandela Effect, and after recently doing a deep dive, I am left mystified. The Mandela Effect is a term coined by Fiona Broome in 2009. While she was at a Dragon Con, she would run into a couple who had distinct and clear memories of news coverage detailing the death of Nelson Mandela in prison back in the 80s. This also sparked some of my own memories of the footage as well as vague images of his widow giving a speech. Broome would be credited with coining the phrase as she was the first to publish a website detailing the phenomenon. Easy research reveals that Mandela actually passed away in 2013 and not in the 80s like so many seem to remember. Thus, the Mandela Effect was born. A technical definition from verywellmind.com details a situation where a large mass of people believe something has occurred when it has not. This is one that got to even me. I seriously remember reading that he had passed, which is why this one has me so bamboozled. There are 2 other real-life examples of this. First, the Tiananmen Square massacre, more specifically Tank Boy. China is well known for censoring much of the news that can come out, and back in 1989, civilians were protesting the injustice imposed by the government. As tanks began coming down the street, a lone man decided to stand up against all odds. He stood in front of the approaching tanks, and many remember watching as the tank ran over him. But now the story is that that man was ushered safely out of the way. Second, many that have watched the assassination video of JFK remember only seeing 4 people in the vehicle. But in reality, when you watch the video, there are 6. As I continued to plummet down a rabbit hole, finding more and more examples of this, patterns began to emerge. So much so that I am going to tackle this mountain of cases by putting them into categories. First up is the myriad of subtle spelling errors or changes people have noticed over the years. Since the TV became a thing in everyone's homes, we've all had ads, brandings, and all sorts of things flash before our eyes. Of course, print media has given us even more to look at. One of the most well-known examples of the Mandela Effect is the Berenstain Bears, a series of children's books. The thing is, many, myself included, remember calling it the Berenstain Bears, not the Berenstain. Apparently, I should have been using an A, and the only copies today that you can find all will read Berenstain. So many people seem to think the same thing that we could spend an entire video surfing Reddit threads on just this one. The authors of the series have obviously been asked about this, and of course they only get a kick out of it. I'm sure they would remember the spelling of their own name being different. However, as one does, I found a rumor of a single printing of the books being sold in Asia that had the incorrect spelling. Of course, that doesn't help my confusion. There have been some TikTok videos out there where people say that they have found copies of them with the spelling for Berenstein. There is no way to back these up as not being faked. Next, did you ever eat Fruit Loops as a child or an adult? No judgment there if you do. But how would you spell the fruit part? Because Kellogg's has been spelling it with double O's as long as they've made the cereal. Or have they? Some seem to remember them spelling the word fruit correctly when they first introduced the sugary goodness. Of course, it could be a case of the company actually changing the spelling at some point, which would be even more diabolical. The same could be said of the Looney Tunes. I swear, I remember it being spelled with the classic double O's again. I mean, come on. Looney has two O's, and what is Bugs Bunny? A cartoon. Anyone? No? Actually, the Looney Tunes were originally supposed to be a counterpart to another musical cartoon titled Merry Melodies that debuted concurrently with good old Daffy Duck and the gang. This sounded really fishy to me, but if you can't trust Wikipedia, then who can you trust? I mean, am I right? Another couple of spelling examples are the fabled Jif versus Jiffy debate and the raging A versus E debate about Oscar Mayer versus Oscar Mayer. These two are perfect examples of why these spelling ones can get people. Something that the human brain can do very easily is mix together two memories. We've all been trying to tell a story and midway through realized we were combining details from separate occasions. In the case of Jif, there is another company of popcorn. I believe it is named Jiffy or Jiffy Pop. I don't think Oscar Mayer ever changed their name, but there are plenty of other mayors out there in popular culture. But even as I say it now, Oscar Mayer would come out more naturally. Critics of the Mandela Effect would say that people are simply mixing up things because, let's face it, memory isn't always reliable. Something else you might note become a theme in this one is the fact that we rely on our phones and the internet for information, so much that we hardly need our memories for whether or not peanut butter has the proper spelling on the label. We can just look up a picture and assume that's what it's supposed to be or has always been. Those that would prefer to trust their own minds are the ones looking closer and giving weight to the idea of the Mandela Effect. The actual term for what the memory is doing is called conflation. Another perfect example of this is a very famous Mandela Effect case. Who was a genie? Shaq or Sinbad? Did you ever see a movie called Kazam, or was it Shazam? Well, the movie was Shaq's Kazam, but Sinbad actually did dress up like a genie for a Hollywood event in the 90s. You know why? 'Cause there was actually another movie named Shazam. In 1994, Sinbad was the genie in the movie, just like Shaq was. So once again, the internet has duped us all into believing only one of these existed. Our brains then conflate the two, and we then agree with the internet, thus adding fuel to the fire. Speaking of, did the Monopoly guy have a monocle? I seem to remember rich Uncle Pennybags with a top hat and cane, or was that the Peanut Man? This is a big point of contention as well amongst those intrigued by this mystery. In fact, the Peanut Man wears the top hat to go with his monocle. Uncle Pennybags has a top hat, but no monocle, no cane. Hasbro has been asked about it, and of course he stated that penny bags never had a monocle. So yes, our brains can mix up two things, but also our reliance on the internet can reinforce the wrong thing. Reinforce something long enough and it creates a false memory, giving many deeply rooted feelings about what they think they've remembered. We've now come to possibly my favorite of the categories of examples. Quotes, movies, lyrics, essentially things people have said. No Mandela Effect video is complete without mentioning the "Luke, I am your father," except perhaps maybe I need to go back and watch Empire again. It was a movie that kind of marked a generation, just like the quote itself did. I asked myself during the research for this one, why do we love quotes so much? Why do we love quoting things to others? For one, as mentioned, these lines can become markers of our generation. Like all the 80s kids saw Back to the Future or Indiana Jones. Lines from these classics already spring to mind. There is a comfort in quoting movies, songs, or books that we know others will respond to and connect with. It has become not only a way to tell a little bit about someone based on their influences, but also a way to connect with them. Put simply, we both can quote Star Wars incorrectly, so we should be friends. The actual line after Luke says, "Obi-Wan told him enough, he told me you killed him." Vader then says, "No, I am your father." Then Luke screams, anyways, I'm getting off course. Let's go back to what we're talking about, the Mandela Effect. But this easily shows how easy it is to misquote a line and then it gets repeated and repeated until we believe we remember it different than what it is. Do you remember the Witch Queen and Snow White saying, "Mirror, mirror on the wall," or do you remember "Magic mirror on the wall"? This one ticks off nearly all of the memory boxes. Firstly, there is a plethora of evidence and copycats and remakes and spin-offs. So not only does popular culture reinforce the wrong line, but also confuses us completely by doing both in the same scene. In the first Shrek, during the interrogation of the gingerbread man, they bring in the magic mirror, and Farquaad literally calls it magic mirror. He frustratingly then goes on to address the mirror with "mirror, mirror on the wall." You're kidding, right? So which is it? Even saying "magic mirror on the wall" feels so weird after all the wrong reinforcement. But in the original Snow White, back in 1937, the witch does indeed say "magic mirror." At least so they tell me it does. And on this one, I almost don't even trust my own memory. That's why this rabbit hole is just, it goes on and on with this topic. It's like one big game of telephone. Sally Fields is another that is misquoted from her acceptance speech. People remember a subtle difference in her "you like me, you really like me." Also, her "play it again, Sam." In Casablanca, it's actually "play it once." These subtle differences can get remembered incorrectly or misquoted incorrectly and move down the line just like the game of telephone until the only way to prove it is to go back and watch the original. It does start to make you question whether things are actually changing and when we start flirting with a dangerous line of what we can trust. For example, the line "fly, you fools," that we all remember Gandalf saying just before plummeting from the bridge was different in theaters. The theatrical version was "run, you fools," but sounds way better in the DVD version, which I can safely say I've watched approximately 7,865 times. Has this happened elsewhere? Because it certainly doesn't help any of the confusion the Mandela Effect is responsible for. finally, we have come to the visual category of examples. I think some of these are probably susceptible to the company changing things and not telling anyone as well, because I swear Fruit of the Loom had a cornucopia in their logo. I know they did. You remember it. I can picture it right now. However, Snopes did an investigation in which Fruit of the Loom was quoted as saying, "The Mandela Effect is real, but the cornucopia in our logo is not." Back in 2023. Again, research into this one on the internet is difficult because there are so many fake pictures and recreations. It's so hard to know what to trust. If someone has a faded tee out there with a cornucopia, please let me know that in the comments down below. I really want to see it. I did see a TikTok where a woman showed a shirt, but the shirt looked new, and so many people in the comments believed it was definitely a fake. Another example of this is from Disney. The controversy over Mickey Mouse and his suspenders. This one is once again influenced by the fact that later versions of the cartoon mouse do in fact depict suspenders, but the original, way back in the day, only has Mickey wearing pants and nothing else. Really showing off those flat, nondescriptive abs, huh? That one may be imminently solvable, but another cartoon creature named George is missing his tail. Or was it never there in the first place? Monkeys have tails, right? Some of them do, at least. Curious George definitely, no, I don't think he did, or did he? Well, back in the 50s, before his name was changed from Zozo to George, the curious little monkey did indeed have a tail. So in the very first book, perhaps George still had a tail, but this one feels like it changed somewhere, and that's why people are claiming he never had one. My last two examples are similar in that there could be some confusion based on proximity to similar images. Such is the case with Pikachu and the tip of his tail. I was actually able to do my own research on this one, as I still have a copy of Pokemon Yellow and an original Game Boy. After firing that up and looking at the Pokedex, it reveals that the tip of Pikachu's tail is not black, but the tips of his ears are. That must be where the confusion lies, and people swear that the tip of his tail is black. I even had a buddy of mine look at his red version, and he confirmed the same thing. Similarly, many people are convinced that C-3PO's leg was gold, just as the other one was. However, in the original A New Hope, despite there not being many full body shots of 3PO, the bottom half of his right leg is silver, not gold. Now, probably the main source of confusion is the fact that the action figures that came out with the movies in the late 70s had 2 gold legs. So all in all, the Mandela Effect has its roots in unreliability of our memories, but also in the heavy and increasing influence of the internet and the availability of information. Of course, we could question the reliability of our sources, but we don't always, do we? Thus, the rampant misconceptions and the outright lies that we allow to become fixed as real memories, creating the Mandela Effect. But is there something else going on as to why so many remember things differently? Some believe that the Mandela Effect is a symptom of us being in an alternate reality or a different timeline. I know, I should probably be wearing a tinfoil hat for this one.
I'm crazy!
But stay with me for a second. When CERN, the company using the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, found the Higgs boson particle in 2012, they maybe caused us to jump timelines. Now, without getting too deep into quantum physics that I don't fully understand, essentially some believe this is possible because they found that particles can jump out of the Higgs field, causing the quark pairs to create new particles that are quantum entangled, opening a gateway between them. Basically, this theory holds that our reality practically jumped to an alternate dimension, and in this alternate dimension, things like Fruit of the Loom cornucopias never existed, even though we remember things as they were in the old reality. Others believe a theory from Erwin Schrödinger. He believed that there could be many worlds existing alongside our own in the same time and space. Another theory is a little bit closer to Earth, but you probably should still keep your tinfoil hat around just for another second. And that is that the government is changing things, not only literally, but on the internet. It's been proven, and they have admitted to doing experiments on the public without our knowledge, not least of all MK Ultra, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It only makes sense that their curiosity would evolve with technology. Most research like this seem to find methods of control, right? So what better way to control the populace than through our source of information? How much fact-checking do people really do? Many simply trust whatever they come across on the internet. With this in mind, could the government be switching random things to see if we notice? To see if we notice when they change our history completely, or more drastically, we've already discussed the unreliable nature of memory. What happens when our trusted source of information is also unreliable? There is also the theory that we are living in a simulation, and sometimes that simulation can glitch. Oh, and the belief that the Mayan calendar did actually end the world as we knew it, and since the world is struggling to continue. But did you know that the end of their calendar was actually just the end of the solar cycle that they had used for their crops and such? So where does that leave us? Brains are weird things, and memories are very unreliable. That is really scary to me because I personally believe that memories have so much to do with making you who you are. But it is also proven that our memories tend to lean towards remembering positive things more clearly. I think that it is very possible that these examples can be proven that psychologically, when a large group of people believe something was one way and begin speaking to the masses about it, these things can take on a life of their own. But I also do believe that in today's day and age, it would be very believable that someone could be doing an experiment with us to see if we will give up and believe what we are now being told. So, what do you think? Do you think that we jump timelines or dimensions? Do you think that we are lab rats that someone is using? Have you experienced any of these? And if so, which ones? Do you know of any that I did not mention? I am very excited to read the comment section on this one. Thank you so much for watching. And if you did watch to the end, please put a book emoji in the comments so that way I know that you made it here. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.